Welcome to another episode of Bros and Beers. Today's plan is we're going to give you a quick recap of all the games happening, and we'll be live streaming during Sunday night's game. So we'll probably talk about that a little bit. I am one of the co-hosts, Nick Keeland.
I'm the other co-host, Ron Smith.
And yeah. How you doing today, Ron?
I'm doing good. How about you? I've had a good day watching football. Good to just be able to sit on the couch and do that again. Feels like it's been a while.
No, I agree. I didn't get to watch any full games necessarily. It was kind of a lot of red zone. But this Detroit game, I'm excited. It's not as high scoring as I expected.
I agree.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
The first game I think we should talk about, though, is the Falcons and the Steelers. If you want to lead us off, Ron, go for it.
Yeah, that sounds good. Pittsburgh won 18-10, 6 field goals from Boswell. So obviously, if anybody had him on their roster, big game from him with his long of 57. Man, Cousins, obviously being a Vikings fan, seeing Cousins go somewhere else and just crap himself.
Yeah, that was great. I love it.
Kind of nice to see. 16 of 26 for 155, a touchdown and 2 picks. Definitely not what Falcons fans were looking for when they signed him to a big contract.
And then drafted Penix. That's great.
And then drafted Penix, correct. Justin Fields on the other side of the ball. He was pretty efficient throwing the ball. He was a little more accurate than Cousins was. 17 to 23 for 156. No touchdowns through the air. But yeah, pretty lackluster game from both quarterbacks there.
I agree. I mean, overall, not a great. There was a few players. Not a great fantasy game except for your defenses.
Agreed.
I mean, realistically, George Pickens had a decent game. I mean, 6 for 85. In a PPR game, that's 14.5 points. I'll take that.
Right. Yeah.
Bijan Robinson, 18 for 68 on the rushing, 5 for 43 on the receiving.
Right.
What's that? 15, 16 points.
100 total yards with 5 catches. Touchdown definitely would have helped.
Yep.
His game looked good. You got Kyle Pitts that scored the lone touchdown of the game, which is pretty crazy to say.
Yeah.
Good to see him. I think that definitely saved his day. Other than that, yeah, Pickens, like you said, 6 for 85. Fields had 57 on the ground. Najee carried the ball 20 times to Warren's 2. Big usage from Najee. I think anybody who drafted him
with it,
no, 70 yards, but it's good to see. And his long was 20.
Correct.
But it's good to anybody that drafted him this year is happy to see that he out-touched Jalen Warren, freaking 21-4.
Correct. And we'll take
that's
that.
I
think one of the biggest stories though is Drake London. 2 receptions, 15 yards, only 3 targets. Ray McLeod had more targets. Which, I mean, granted, Steelers secondary I do like.
Yeah. Ray McLeod was the second leading receiver in this game.
Do you have the Lions game on, by the way?
I do.
Great throw to Jameson Williams.
Yeah, Jameson Williams, long touchdown.
But
yep.
I think that's majority. Tell me if I'm wrong. Well, Pat Freiermuth had a game, but I think that's the majority of the fantasy relevant players in this game.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest takeaways were Najee getting 90% of the touches, Bijan 100 total yards.
London.
Pitts had a touchdown to save his day. London, yeah, not really doing much. Let's move on to Buffalo and Arizona. That was a little more fun to watch. Josh Allen just doing Josh Allen things.
Putting on a show.
Yeah, 18 to 23, really efficient throwing the ball, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then adding 2 touchdowns on the ground.
Correct.
Um,
He did lose a fumble.
Lost a fumble. I think that was the second drive, but definitely looked up from there
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Besides him, to stay on the Bills side, James Cook went 19 rushes for 71 yards
Hmm.
and added 3 catches for 32 yards. So a
Yeah.
decent game. What's that? 13 points in PPR at
Yep.
least.
Yep.
Not great, but if that's his floor, I'll
I would
take that
say
every week.
that's a great floor for a running back that most people probably drafted in the late second, early third round, maybe drop into the fourth in some leagues. But again, 100 total yards out of a running back with some receptions. He scores a touchdown and he has a great day.
And of course, Josh Allen stole some red zone touchdowns, which is probably going to be the story of the year.
Yeah, I mean that was the same story as last year. James Cook had 2 rushing touchdowns to Allen's 15.
Correct.
That was one reason I was afraid to take Cook in a lot of leagues, just because I knew that his touchdown upside was low with Josh Allen
And he's not going to catch a ton of
being
balls.
true.
He's limited.
Um, Keon Coleman was had the most targets. That's nice to see. The rookie, 4 catches, 51 yards.
Love that.
Other than that, I think the other story on the Buffalo side of the ball was that Dalton Kincaid had 2 targets for 1 catch and 11 yards.
Yeah, I mean, realistically,
Being at
Josh Allen just spread the ball.
Yeah, he
Only
did a really
one
good job.
person
Nobody
went
had,
above 3 targets.
yeah, which is pretty crazy. But people who drafted Dalton Kincaid as a top 3 tight end, that is not something you like to see.
They're pissing themselves because,
Yeah.
yeah. On the other side of the ball, the Cardinals, Kyler Murray went 21 of 31 for 162 yards and a touchdown.
Hmm.
Not great. He did add
No.
5 rushes for 57 yards, so that helps his floor.
Right.
James Conner, 16 for 50 and a touchdown. Added 3 catches on 4 targets for 33 yards. So,
Hmm.
you know, that'll do.
Yeah.
11, 14, 17.3 points in PPR at
Hmm.
least. I'll take that.
Yep.
The biggest story though, your boy MHJ. Ugh.
Yeah. Three
Ugh.
targets for 1 catch and 4 yards. That is not what people were hoping for when they drafted him as a top 15 wide receiver. And then you got Greg Dortch, who had 8 targets for 6 catches and 47 yards. I think that's a little bit of a surprise, but it's just football. It's gonna, stuff like that's gonna happen, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's just,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was a matchup. It looked like Rasul Douglas was lined up on MHJ
And
most
he
of the
locked him
game.
down.
So maybe that was the reason. But yeah, hopefully this is the lowest of lows for MHJ throughout the season.
I hope so. I was kind of hoping on a side note we'd see a little bit more Trey Benson, and we didn't see a lot of that,
Yeah,
which
only
we
touched the
knew.
ball 4 times, but
The
yeah.
last fantasy relevant player I'd say is Trey McBride. 9 targets, which is great. He led the team in
Hmm.
targets. 5 catches for 30 yards, so he didn't get a lot of air yards. But 8 points. I mean, he'll see a lot better days than this, I think.
I agree.
Kyler Murray just didn't play very good. So,
Yeah, he didn't. He looked like he was gonna. He looked like he was starting the game off pretty hot, and then definitely cooled off.
mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the opposite sides where you seemed like Allen kind of started off slow and heated up as the game went on, and Murray kind of started hot and cooled off.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what next week brings, but
Yeah,
not a great day for either team besides Josh Allen.
right. I
So,
agree.
next,
Moving on. Yeah, moving on to our next game, Chicago versus Tennessee.
ugly game.
This was this was another one that was kind of like where's the fantasy points coming from in this one?
I,
Starting on the Bears side of the ball,
no one.
it looked
No.
rough everywhere. Caleb Williams did not look like a number one pick.
Mm-mm.
He didn't even complete 50% of his passes, didn't break 100 yards. Everybody's saying he's going to be the one to break that 4,000 yards for the first time, and he can't even crack 100.
No.
Definitely concerning, but hopefully this is just a learning curve for him. Only ran the ball 5 times for 15 yards. Their leading receiver was DJ Moore with 5 catches for 36 yards on 8 targets. Keenan Allen was the leading target getter with 11, and he turned that into 4 for 29. Adunze 1 catch for 11 yards on 4 targets. I mean, just all around the board. Everyone on
Terrible.
the Chicago side of the ball, yeah, just
one catch for 4 yards. Swift,
yeah, 1 target. I mean,
Swift 10 rushes for 30 yards. I mean, just
yeah,
terrible. I mean,
their
their
defense won this game for them. The offense didn't even score a touchdown.
Correct.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Pretty amazing.
Didn't they have? So they had a pick six. I thought that this
pick six.
Right,
they blocked a punt. They blocked a punt for a touchdown.
Yeah, Jonathan.
And the husband of Simone Biles.
So if you had Chicago defense, you did great this week.
Yes, that is correct.
Not
they had a great game.
The greatest fantasy asset of a team is their defense. Let's move on to the Titans. That's the truth. Not much better. They had one stud, I think. Tony Pollard. He had a good game.
He did. I was kind of thinking that split was gonna be a little more down the middle, but Pollard seeing 19 touches to Spears' 8.
Mm-hmm.
People who drafted Pollard are definitely happy with that.
I did not get any shares in this year. I'm kind of... We'll see. It's only one game, but I think Spears will overtake him eventually.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Levis didn't look really good. Calvin Ridley, he's a leading target getter with 7. He turned that into 3 for 50. He's the only person on the Titans to have over 18 receiving yards. Pretty insane. Another game where it's just not really a whole lot of fantasy relevance here.
No.
Which is kind of sad to see. I think a lot of people were expecting more out of Williams and the Bears coming out of the gate, but Tennessee does have a pretty good defense, so maybe that'll change with a different matchup for them.
We'll see. One last note on this game before we move on to the next one is DeAndre Hopkins did play 1 target, 1 catch, 8 yards.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
And I guess looking forward, I don't want any part of this offense.
Yeah.
Besides Pollard, but
unless something changes, but yeah.
It's
I agree.
Bottom 3.
Yep.
Next game, so I think we should talk about the Patriots and Bengals.
Yeah.
One of my hot takes last night was the Patriots were going to upset the Bengals.
Yes, sir. And they absolutely did that.
Bengals looked terrible.
Bengals did not look good. They looked flat. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what was going on with them, but they've always seemed to have offensive line problems, and it looked like Burrow was getting pressured a lot, having to make quick throws, not able to push the ball downfield. He only had 164 yards, no touchdowns. You got Zach Moss, 9 carries, 44 yards, and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, after pretty much missing entire offseason, is their leading receiver with 6 catches for 62 yards, which...
On 6 targets, too, so he was efficient.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much his floor, so...
I'll take it.
You're happy it's not a terrible game out of a guy that didn't really do anything this offseason with his team, but definitely better out of them, and maybe not having T. Higgins hurt. I definitely thought they were going to try to get the ball to Chase Brown a little bit more.
Yeah, I was
Him only
disappointed
having
with that.
6 touches. Yeah, him only having 6 touches, I thought was
But
kind of odd, but
Zach Moss looked good.
he
I
did look
thought
good.
like he's not you know a CMC kind of player. Like he's just solid
Right.
on the Bills, on
I
the
agree.
Colts. He's always just been solid.
Mm-hmm.
5 yards per carry, 8 yards catch, 8.5 yards, I guess. But
Yeah.
can't really ask for more.
Right.
On the other side of the ball, Jacoby Brissett, 121 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Added 7 rushes for 32 yards, which is nobody. Most leagues, he's going to be available, and you're not going to want to pick him
Yeah.
up.
Right.
The only other player, which probably is a star of this game, was Ramondre Stevenson. 120
Yeah.
yards and a touchdown, adding 3 catches for 6 yards.
They
I can't
fed
believe he
him
was
the
able to do that.
rock.
Yeah.
Fed him the rock and kept feeding it. I think that's probably going to end up being the story for this offense this year is he's going to be
20 to
their big
25
weapon.
rushes a game.
Yeah, he's a big dude. He can handle the beating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they gave him the ball and he made it work. His long was 17 yards, so he's just getting chunk gain after chunk gain.
Correct.
Um,
And
again,
in a real football conversation, that's all you need.
hmm
I'll take that every
agreed.
day. On to the
Yeah,
next game, though.
that was pretty much it for that one. Not a whole another game where there's not really a whole lot going on fantasy wise,
I mean,
but
overall, the whole NFL was just kind of a dud today. Like, there were some players that did well, but, like, looking at all of my leagues, there wasn't many super high scores.
right,
But the next game I think we should talk about is, and this was better for fantasy, Colts
agreed.
at Texans.
hmm
Your boy, C.J. Stroud.
Yes, looks great.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like he's gonna. I mean, dude, he's got more weapons than he had last year, and it looks like he is going to continue to thrive down there in Houston. 234 yards, super efficient, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he didn't really even have to do a whole lot when you got Joe Mixon going for 30, 159 and a touchdown, and he added 3 catches for 19 yards. I mean,
Great day by
we
him.
talked we talked about a good debut from Saquon Barkley with a running back on a new team, and Joe Mixon pretty much he didn't have as good of a game as Barkley did, but still had a great game. Diggs looks like he's going to be a short
Wide receiver
intermediate
too.
guy. Yeah, he had a couple touchdowns,
Mm-hmm.
and all three of those guys, Collins with 8 targets, turned that into 6 for 117. Dell was a little less efficient with his targets he had seven targets, 3 catches, 40 yards. I think Diggs is probably going to be
Red zone guy.
their red zone guy because he's the
Mm-hmm.
experienced route runner with hands, and I think he might end up. He might,
When he's not
he might.
facing double coverage anymore. They can't double
Right,
him.
he might end up being like Thielen a few years ago, where he scored, I think it was like 12 touchdowns, but didn't break 1,000 yards, but he just worked in the red zone. So
Mm-hmm.
that could be Diggsy's role in this offense now is
And I like to
just
see it.
killing it in the red zone.
As, kind of, it rubbed the Vikings fans wrong when he requested the trade and went to the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Did great there. And then
Yeah.
requested a trade again. Now he's on the Texans. I want him to find success. So
Mm-hmm.
hopefully he can find it with the Texans.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, though, not a very efficient day. Anthony Richardson, 9 of 19, 212 yards. I'm sorry, 2 touchdowns and a pick. He had
Mm-hmm.
at least that I saw, 2 times throwing it to Mitchell where he was wide open by like 15 yards and he overthrew him.
Yep, I
And then
saw
he
those
had
two.
his touchdowns were insane. If you got a second, look up the highlights. Just getting rocked by a defensive lineman, throws the ball 60 yards right on the money. Like
Yeah, that first
crazy
throw
talented.
was pretty incredible.
Yeah, to Pierce. Or no, it was Doolin that was
It was
first,
it
and then it
was
was
no, Pierce was first. That was a 60-yarder.
oh, that's
Guy,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
guy in his face, just a dot, 60 yards in the air. Just
Hmm.
shows the potential he could possibly have. He definitely missed Mitchell a couple times wide open, but if he could, if he can continue to make throws like that one, this guy's the limit with
Top
him.
five.
Especially when he can add 6 carries for 56 yards and another touchdown. I mean, fantasy wise, he had a great day.
Yeah, 34 points, I think it was. And
Hmm.
6 point per passing.
Right.
Uh, Next guy, though, Jonathan Taylor. Pretty, as far as efficiency, not a great day. 16
No.
for 48, 3 yards per carry, a long of 7. Thankfully, he got the rushing touchdown. Otherwise, that was a complete
Yeah.
dud.
Definitely saved his day with that touchdown. Wasn't targeted in the passing game, which is not what people were hoping to see. But
Hmm. But the Houston, they improved their defense this offseason, where I think they're going to have a
hmm
better run defense. And the Colts' offensive line, it lost a few steps.
yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
you still got Quentin Nelson, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
And another.
Houston,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say Houston's definitely gonna be a good team. There's gonna be weeks where those three wide receivers are gonna one of them, any week one of those guys could go off. I definitely think Nico's gonna be the guy that's gonna um I think Nico's gonna be the guy. I think he proved to have a good chemistry with Stroud last year. I think that's gonna continue this year.
Yep, totally agree.
Mm,
Uh, another dud, complete dud. Michael Pittman, 4 for 31 on 8 targets.
yeah.
I mean, when your quarterback only completes 9 passes, you're not going to have a lot of wide
Yeah,
receiver success.
very true.
No tight ends did
Very true.
anything. He didn't have a tight end that he completed a pass to.
Yeah, Mo Alley Cox had one target, and that's about it.
And
And
Grayson
then,
had another.
yeah,
Yeah, Alex Pierce though. We'll talk about waiver pickups tomorrow night, but
hmm
3 for 125 and a touchdown. You probably can't rely on that though, because he only had 3 targets.
right.
Ashton Doolin,
Yeah,
he's not going to be somebody you want to pick
one
up.
catch. Yeah, one catch for 54 yards. That's just
That's
the
just
once in
luck.
a every few weeks play where you get open and you can actually get the ball thrown your way and on target and you take it to the house.
Correct.
Yeah.
The next game that we should talk about, I think, is the Miami Jacksonville game.
hmm
A lot of drama before the game. Probably shouldn't talk
Yeah.
about it, but apparently
Don't
Tyreek
think.
Hill
Yeah.
was speeding and he got pulled over, and not great.
Definitely don't.
Everything was okay in the end, but
Yeah. Definitely don't think it's going to amount to much. Otherwise, I don't think he would have been playing.
no, oh no, he's not in any kind of legal trouble. They
Right.
came out and said that the cop that tried to arrest him or something, he's put on leave or so.
Mm,
Tyreek Hill
okay.
definitely didn't do anything wrong, but
Yeah.
it was like the headline of the day going into it. It was like Tyreek Hill arrested. It's like
Yeah.
okay, but let's find out some more information before we dig in.
Right.
Starting with the Dolphins, though, Tua I thought, a good game. If he would have had a couple more touchdowns, it would have been awesome.
hmm
23 to
Threw
37,
for
338 yards and a touchdown.
and
No interceptions. We'll take that.
he was a passing yard leader last year, so for him to go over 300 is not surprising.
Yep.
Big 80-yard touchdown to Hill. I mean, the long gains for his top three receivers were Hill with an 80-yard touchdown, Waddle with a 63-yard reception, and Achane with a 39-yard reception. So big
Hmm.
chunk gains like that are going to be the story of this Dolphins team, but they are by far the fastest team in the NFL,
Oh, God, yeah.
um, and they proved it. Again, Hill doing Hill things, 7 for 130 and a touchdown on 12 targets. Waddle kind of got banged up there in the middle of the game, but came back, 5 catches for 109 on 5 targets. And then Achane had 100 total yards and a touchdown.
7 catches.
Definitely looked like, yeah, 7 catches. I mean, he had 17 touches to Mostert's 8. So love to see that for those, people that drafted him. Used a high pick on him. Obviously, super inefficient on the ground, but if he's going to get 7 targets a game, like, it doesn't matter what he does on the ground because he's too good with the ball in his hands. He's too fast. He's gonna make some magic happen when he's got the ball in his hands for sure.
Correct. Raheem Mostert didn't do anything in this game. 19 total yards on 8 touches. I was low on him this year, though. I think A-Chain's going to take over, and Jalen Wright will eventually be the RB2.
Yeah, it was surprising to see that they signed Mostert to a 2-year extension this offseason and then drafted somebody, but I'm not a NFL GM, so I don't know what they're thinking, but
that's why we're doing this.
Yeah, exactly. Switching over to the other side, Jacksonville, Lawrence started off looking like he was going to have a hell of a game. Finished off 12 of 21, 162 and a touchdown. The touchdown to Brian Thomas was nice.
That was great. And he's looking like he could be their number 1 now.
Yeah, 4 targets, 4 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Nobody on that side of nobody on Jacksonville had more than 4 targets. They ran the ball 26 times. And that's I think the biggest takeaway from this game is that Tank Bigsby had as many carries as Travis Etienne, and he did more with them.
Well, and Etienne had a fumble, so
he had a big fumble at the goal line.
Yeah. And then
that hurts.
Yeah. That was a bad game for Etienne.
Yeah,
Very
agreed.
Bad game.
Yeah, and another one just on the receiving side of the ball, you got Evan Ingram, who is a number 2 tight end with 4 targets, 1 catch and 5 yards. I mean, that is abysmal.
He was one of my starts the weeks, and it was a fail. When you have a quarterback that completes 12 passes in general, there's not going to be a lot of great numbers out there. 162 yards is it's not great, but oh well.
Not great at all.
I think they'll bounce back next week.
Yeah. So. I agree. Yeah, it definitely looked like, it was 17-7 at halftime. Miami kind of looked flat, but they definitely came out of the half looking good. This team's going to be one of the highest flying offenses in the league, so not surprised to see that they came back and won that one.
Next game, let's go to New Orleans and Carolina.
Our biggest blowout of the day.
Yeah, oh yeah.
47-10. I mean, the Panthers,
which is funny, the spread on it, they had New Orleans, what was it, 3.5, I think it was? Yeah,
really?
3.5 spread, and they beat them by 37. And
Derek Carr only needed 200 yards, but threw for 3 touchdowns. Crazy efficient for him, 19 of 23.
I think, honestly, sorry, real quick, the star of the game, Blake Grupe.
Yeah, the kicker.
What do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 field goals. And
4 field goals. He was 4 for 4 with a 50 long of 57.
Yep. 17 fantasy points though.
Yeah, great day for sure. Shaheed with a long touchdown. Foster Moreau with a touchdown. Juwan Johnson. So the tight ends were eaten. Kamara with 5 catches, 27 yards. So Kamara had 110 total yards, 5 catches and a touchdown. Great to see that. Jamal Williams did have 11 carries. I think a big part of that was just
they were up,
just the score. I think the biggest surprise of the game on the Saints side of the ball is that Chris Olave saw 2 targets, 2 catches for 11 yards. I know he was a high draft pick in a lot of leagues this year, so myself included. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
little bit scary to see him
He was your
pretty
keeper.
much just not. No, he wasn't.
I thought
But
you, I thought you, thought you kept him in. Oh no, you kept Lamb. That's right.
yeah, but yeah, a little concerning to see him pretty much not be a part of the game plan at all.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that'll change. But looks like I mean, they ran the ball 37 times, threw it 23. But again, that's probably just kind of the flow of the game.
Well, yeah, when you're up, they were up big the whole time. So,
Yeah, I mean, when you're playing one of the worst teams in football, that'll probably happen.
yep.
And going to that worst team in football, Bryce Young. I mean,
Did not look like a first number one overall pick. That's for sure.
no, 13 of 30. He had a QB rating of 32.8. I mean, Andy Dalton didn't even complete a pass, and his rating was higher than his, which I don't understand, but I don't make the rules on
I say
those.
I'd have to look up the definition of quarterback rating, but
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that saved Bryce Young from a fantasy perspective was having a rushing touchdown, which by that point probably really didn't do much in the
wait,
first
I think he
place.
was finished off with 12 points or something.
Yeah. Um,
No,
One guy that I said
yeah,
that I was high on yesterday was Deontay Johnson. He had 6 targets, 2 catches for 19 yards. I mean, that's
not bad.
not not sure what not sure what to think of Bryce Young, but man, it doesn't look like.
That was a rough matchup though too. Like going in, New Orleans. I don't know. This is my opinion. I didn't see a lot happening for Carolina just because New Orleans has a great defense.
Yeah, hard to stick to a game plan when you get down by 3, when you're down 30-3 at halftime.
Correct.
Um, you kind of have to throw everything out the window and just figure out any way to get points on the board at that point.
I'm just surprised that they actually ran the ball 20 times still.
Right.
So
Pretty crazy. And
yeah,
nothing. And yeah, 4 of those were from Bryce Young, so and one was from one for Mingo.
yeah. So
So,
basically 15.
you know, I know, you know, Jonathan Brooks was a guy I targeted in a lot of leagues, knowing that he could possibly take over this backfield, and it looks like when he comes back and they're ready to get him integrated into their scheme, that he doesn't have much competition when you got a Sanders and Hubbard basically doing jack squat.
Yeah, the problem will be is defenses can just key on him.
Right.
So we'll see how they game plan with that.
Yeah.
On to the next one though. Our hometown team, the Vikings and the Giants. What a game. Sam Darnold, dude. Is he the guy?
Sam
Do we even need
Darnold.
McCarthy?
I mean, McCarthy is the future. Darnold's is right now. I think the
Oh, I know.
only hiccup I saw, it was his interception, but it was a ball that was batted in the air, so it wasn't even
I mean, he was
not.
efficient.
And
He was really
he was
efficient
super
with the ball.
efficient. Great rating, 19-24. The Vikings were up big by the time fourth quarter came around, so it didn't really have to rely on him to throw the ball. Um, I know. Yeah, I know. Last night, one of my hot takes was him going for 303 touchdowns.
Hmm.
But I'll take 202 touchdowns any day of the week from him.
And
Didn't really
win.
have to do. Yeah, played pretty conservatively in the second half. Aaron Jones looked really good. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
That
the
run,
only
that touchdown
thing.
run he had, he looked uh, explosive for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. If he can keep that up, he's going to be solid. Receiving side of the ball, I think
Although,
Darnold did a great.
sorry, real
Darnold
quick,
did it.
with Aaron Jones, I mean, I think one of the reasons why. So there was a little bit of a split. He had 14
Hmm.
to 8 rushes. Jones was way more efficient with it, but I think Chandler, they were up big. They didn't need to use
Yeah,
Jones. He's not a player that you need. He already has injury concerns. You don't need to run him to the ground.
yeah.
Uh,
He's actually pretty durable. Besides, like last year, he missed quite a
well,
bit of time. But
he's been banged up a lot, and he just plays through it.
Yeah,
He's always on the injury report, I feel like. But oh
with
well.
some little minor some.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson, I'd say had a
He was
pretty
okay.
mediocre game for his standards. He definitely was at his floor.
Yes.
Um, 4 for 59 with a touchdown. Naylor caught a touchdown, which was nice to see for him. Jordan Addison, though, leaving the game with an ankle injury.
It's not serious,
That
so that's good.
Not serious. Yeah, I think it's just something that he just got rolled up on. Definitely something to monitor, though. You never know how those things can linger
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot. But one of my starts of the week was the Minnesota defense, and they did not disappoint.
No.
I picked them up in like 3 of my leagues, and they're probably going to win me the week because they had such a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said last night, Daniel Jones is not a good NFL quarterback, and he proved it again.
Yeah.
Barely going over 50%, 2 picks. Um, his the best attribute to his game is that he can run, and he still didn't really do that
No,
effectively.
15 yards.
Um,
Not great.
yeah, I mean, the one like sort of bright spot I'd say was Neighbors, the rookie, turned 7 targets into 5 for 66. Wandale Robinson had 12 targets, which is
Insane.
insane to me, but didn't really do much with those either. I think the Giants' offense as a whole, maybe besides Neighbors, I would definitely recommend staying away from.
Yeah, I mean, even Singletary,
Yeah,
he's going to be the starter, but he
didn't look
10
good.
for 37 on rushing, 4 catches for
Hmm.
15 yards. Nothing to see there. He's just,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Let's move on to Raiders and Chargers. A player I was excited for all year. He was one of my starts of the week. Zamir White, man, he let me down.
yeah. He was pretty inefficient. Um, did
Oh,
lose a fumble
big
as well.
fumble. Yep. And
Did see two
Alexander
targets.
Madison, he looks like he's gonna be the receiving back.
Yeah, which was not what people were hoping for drafting Zamir White. I think most people were hoping he was going to have a more of a role in the passing game, but
Mm-hmm.
you never know. It's a long season. That could change. But yeah, Madison had a good game catching the ball. Brock Bowers, 8 targets. He was the most targeted receiver on the Raiders. Like to see that for people who drafted him as like their tight end one. Devontae Adams hit his floor. Nothing too exciting from Las Vegas.
I mean, both
On the
those
chart,
games. Sorry, but from Bowers and Adams, if that's their floor,
mm,
even Myers,
yeah,
11 points. I mean, Myers had 9,
yeah,
but 11 points from the other two. I'll take that.
hmm yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. If that's the floor, that's not a bad floor for anybody.
Mm-mm.
Justin Herbert, I don't know.
Not a great
I
game.
don't know if it's I don't know if it's just like a new coach, new scheme, if that plantar fascia in his foot is still bothering him, but he definitely wasn't pushing the ball downfield, or maybe it's just not, having receivers he's not used to throwing to. But
And not
Vlad
great
McConkey,
receivers either.
yeah, I think McConkey. I talked about him being a breakout. He scored their lone touchdown. He had the most targets. Didn't really do a whole lot in the yards situation, but it's good to see that he was the one that caught the touchdown. He gets the most targets. I really liked him coming into the season as one of those top drafted rookie wide receivers, so it was nice to see him hit pay dirt in that game.
Mm-hmm. Biggest story, though, J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins is back.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see is right.
I mean, he had 10 for 135 and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Split carries with Gus Edwards, but it seems like he looked explosive. That's the thing
He
is,
looked.
after 2 serious injuries, you can't even tell.
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. And he had 3 catches. Didn't do anything with the catches, but
No.
I think I think for Los Angeles, they're Harbaugh likes to run the ball. I think it's going to be a split to not overuse one back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if Dobbins keeps doing what he did today, I mean, he basically, with him being so good on the ground, you could say he won this game for them.
Oh yeah, easily.
But yeah, other than that, I mean, not a whole lot to talk about. Quentin Johnson was the second highest targeted receiver, which is kind of surprising. I know a lot of people were
Yeah.
down on him this year. Josh Palmer, though, 2 for 15 on
Complete
four
dud.
targets. I think a lot of people expected him to be the wide receiver one on this team.
Yeah.
A little disappointing.
I
Disappointing
drafted
there.
him in a couple leagues, hoping that he'd be the one,
Hmm.
and just might not be a great offense to be a part of.
Yeah, I agree.
But anyways,
I agree.
next game I think we should talk about is Denver at Seattle. Seattle ended up beating the Broncos 26-20.
Hmm.
Not once again, it's like the story of the day. There's a few players here and there, but not a great fantasy day from anyone.
Yeah.
Uh, Kenneth Walker is like the only bright spot, and
Hmm.
he got
Yeah.
hurt, didn't he? Or did he come back?
I didn't.
I
That
thought.
is a good question.
Yeah, so he did get hurt, but he came back.
Yes, correct.
Yeah,
He
abdominal
said he would be
injury.
okay.
Oh, so he did not come back, but he'll be fine. So it's not a serious
Yep.
injury, nothing to worry about. Um, Charbonnet ended up having a receiving touchdown. Who
Yep.
I still think they could have a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, absolutely. Walker on the ground, 20 for 103 and a touch. Probably the best fantasy game on the field there in this one.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, DK Metcalf didn't do anything. 3 for 29 on 4 targets.
Hmm.
Another start of my week, which didn't work out. Smith and Jigba 2 for 19 on 2 targets. Tyler Lockett though, 6 receptions for 77 yards on 7 targets. Take that.
Kind of a surprise there, yeah.
Um, Bo Nix, not a great game.
Yeah.
138 yards, 2 interceptions. Did have a rushing touchdown.
Yep.
And then literally everyone else on the Broncos was look. Cortland Sutton, 12 targets and only 4 catches.
Yeah. I was gonna
Just
say pretty much everybody on the Denver side of the ball is just a dud.
yeah,
Um, that might. I was, I was kind of high on Bo Nix coming in. I thought he'd come in and be a good fit for Sean Payton's scheme. Um, who knows? It's we'll probably say it more than once tonight, but it's early in the season. You never know what's going to happen. But not a good start for the Denver Broncos.
no, but they're not going to be a great team this year. So
I don't think so
what do you
either.
expect?
What do you? Yeah, exactly.
On to the next game. We got the Cowboys and the Browns. 33-17. Cowboys end up winning, and it was
Hmm.
not that close. Luckily, they had a touchdown at the end. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it was ugly.
Biggest story out of that before the game was Prescott signing his new deal, becoming the highest paid quarterback, or I should say, highest paid player in the NFL.
That's right. 50 million,
Um,
or no, what is it? 60 million? 4 for
I think it's
240.
four for 240. Yep.
Yep.
So him and Lamb are going to be doing things for a while together. But yeah, I
He
mean,
didn't have a great
Dak
game.
didn't.
Neither one of them
Dak
did.
did not. He did not look the part of the highest paid player in the NFL. But his team won. From fantasy perspective, you'd like to see him do a little bit more. But Cleveland does have a good defense,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so you know, in the NFL, the only thing that matters is wins. So, I guess from a non-fantasy perspective, good for him. But
I mean,
running the
overall,
ball,
sorry, another game where no fantasy studs. Like
yeah,
they
not
had some
really.
touchdowns here and there, but nobody really stood out.
Mm-hmm. Um, CeeDee Lamb, you like to see him get targeted 10 times. He had a few carries. He did the most with those. Again, another receiver that pretty much just hit his floor.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And he didn't play or he didn't practice a lot, so
right.
you'll see better days from him.
Yeah, Brandon Cook, 7 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown. And then the running backs, 10 to 8 split in carries, both pretty inefficient on the ground. Zeke did get the touchdown, but he'll probably end up being the goal line back for this team. Other than that, another big thing, Jake Ferguson, he was my start of the week, didn't do jack squat, and then got hurt
Carted off,
towards the end
right?
of the game. I don't know if he was carted off, but it didn't look. It was one of those kind of injuries that it looked like it was something where he tweaked his knee and maybe might not be good. But yeah, I don't know. Another.
Oh no, he walked off on his own.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Then on the other side of the ball,
Hey.
man,
Oh,
Deshaun.
sorry to update on this. Initial
Okay.
tests not believed to have suffered an ACL tear, so
No.
not serious. Still
Could end
unfortunate.
up being like a sprain or something, though. Never know.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go
Oh,
ahead.
keeping it on the Dallas side of the ball. Brandon Aubrey, just doing Brandon Aubrey things.
Yeah.
4 field goals, 2 of them 50-plus yarders. I actually think,
And they were almost about to attempt a 71-yard field goal with him.
yeah, which I thought was crazy. Brandon Aubrey had 2 field goals of 40 yards or more. Two,
Well, let's see. He had a
yeah, and
57, a
2 of 50 or
40,
more.
50, and a 46. So
Yeah, so dude's just automatic. I targeted him in like a bunch of my leagues, knowing that he's just gonna be like
he's gonna score 20 points.
he's like an automatic 10 points every week.
Mm-hmm.
It's if you can get that out of your kicker, that's money. He was good. Dallas defense and special teams looked awesome. Turpin with the punt return touchdown. I think if you drafted this defense, then you're pretty happy with the outcome. Then going on the other side of the ball, Deshaun Watson, man, I just don't think he has it anymore. He's
No, God, no.
making so much money to just be terrible.
Honestly, they need to start Jameis Winston. Just throw him in there. It can't be any worse.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it's tough for them because you're paying the guy so much money. You feel like you need to play him.
Well, you can't let him sit on your bench. Yeah, I get it.
Right.
But they just
Yeah.
restructured his contract, so
Okay.
maybe they're doing that
But
to
yeah,
bench him.
Cleveland just offensively didn't look good. I think you had Ford who had 44 yards and a touchdown, which is probably the only bright spot. Amari Cooper didn't do anything. Judy scored a touchdown, which didn't do much otherwise. Their leading receiver was David Njoku, who left with an ankle injury and apparently left the stadium in a boot.
Oh, great.
Yeah, which definitely isn't good. Fantasy purposes. So hopefully it's not serious. But we'll see. I definitely don't think we saw Dallas at full, their full potential because they didn't need it because they were ahead early and stayed ahead, and that's all they needed. So.
Yep. I mean, if it was a closer game, I think they could have brought all their firepower, but they didn't need to.
Right.
So.
Very true.
Last game of the day, Ron's. You were right on the dot with this start of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Mr.
Only
Baker
the only
Mayfield.
one I got right in this game, Baker Mayfield. He he looked freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
37-20, 24-30, 289 and 4 touchdowns. I mean, is this guy gonna emerge as one of the top, a top 5 quarterback in the league this year with this offense?
I could see it. I mean, he was number 1 overall pick. He was comeback player of the year last year? Or no, not comeback player. Was he? No.
I don't know if he was.
Anyways,
don't know if he was, but
I feel like
he only sacked once. I mean,
Oh
spread
yeah,
the
that's right.
ball.
They gave it to Joe Flacco last year.
That's a joke.
He
He
should
only
have. He
played half
should
the
have
season.
been. He's played like
Um,
4 games.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was definitely utilizing his best weapons. Godwin, 8 targets, 8 catches, 83 yards, and a touchdown. That's an awesome stat line. Rashad White, super inefficient on the ground, but that was the kind of the case for him last year as well. But 6 for 75 receiving on 6 targets. That's why people drafted him where they did, is because he's a great receiving back and he pretty much gets every touch. Even though Bucky Irving did see 9 carries for 62 yards.
But they were up.
But
They were up majority of the game.
that's
So
that's very true. So that's another thing, yeah. And I think I mentioned yesterday too that the strength of that Washington defense is their front seven. Um, So not a surprise to see White be a little inefficient on the ground, but definitely did some damage through the air. And then Mike Evans just doing Mike
just
Evans
manly
things.
things.
5 for 61 and 2 touchdowns. And then the rookie Jalen McMillan also, he had 3 targets. His lone catch was a 32-yard touchdown.
So
Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay has a pretty good path to winning this division and having a lot of fantasy relevant players. And Baker Mayfield was, I think, drafted as like a
like 13th,
pretty low quarterback.
maybe in lower than
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends on the league, anywhere between 13 and 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had 3 receivers in a sense. If you count Rashad White as a receiver, 2 for sure that had phenomenal games.
Yeah.
Between Godwin and Evans.
Absolutely.
Otten didn't do anything, and he's probably not going to do a lot. But let's talk about the other side of the ball. Jaden Daniels, not terrible game. Much better than Caleb Williams. I mean, he was really efficient with his passing. 17 of 24. Didn't push the ball down the field, but he has nobody to throw to besides McLaurin.
And didn't even really use him either. He didn't target anybody more than 4 times.
Yeah. But he's going to do a lot of his work on the with his legs. 88 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns.
Man, he looks a lot like number 8 in Baltimore, running the ball.
Or
just
that, and also the OG for the Commanders, RG3.
Oh yes.
Hopefully he can stay.
Yeah, man. He's fast and shifty, and he was a leading rusher. 16 for 88 and 2 touchdowns. I mean, definitely not a good game in real life fantasy in real life football terms, fantasy terms, with a rushing stat like that. I mean, with where he was going in drafts this year, that's league winning stuff for sure. Yeah, my other 2 starts of the week in this game were Eckler and McLaurin. Eckler did end up being the leading receiver on this team.
Yeah.
Like I said, nobody saw more than 4 targets in this game, and McLaurin had 2 for 17. Definitely
a dud.
Definitely hoping for more out of him, being their wide receiver 1. It's kind of underwhelming. The one thing that definitely got to look out for throughout the year is Jaden Daniels holding on to the ball. He fumbled 3 times. He didn't lose any, but
he's got to be more secure with that.
You got to learn to be more secure with that stuff. He got lucky that he didn't lose any of those. So,
and he's going to be sacked a ton this year.
He was only sacked twice.
Yes.
But a lot of that probably has to do with him being so elusive.
But he's going to be running away, and it's going to be a rough year for him. He'll be fine in fantasy. But another story I'd like to talk about. You like him this year, but Austin Eckler returning punts. I'm sorry, kickoffs? Yeah,
kickoffs. Yep.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. I mean, dude, he's good with the ball in his hands, so never know what could happen. that's just another. I mean, especially since he's not really the lead back, that could be an added bonus for fantasy player.
Correct. He just has to
If he
score.
takes one to the house and 6 points, we love to see.
Correct. Um, any who Ron? Who's your player? Like complete player of the day?
Player of the day. Um.
Who'd you like the
Hmm,
most?
hmm, hmm. I think the one player, just fantasy wise,
Yeah, fantasy
I think
speaking.
an obvious one is Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Great game, definitely carried them to the win. But I think I picked him as my start of the week at quarterback, but Baker Mayfield I think did even better than I thought he was going to do.
Yeah.
Um, I did pick him because the Commanders are not a good defense. But he played a great game. They're the reason he won, and let's see if he can continue that through the rest of the year. Because, like I said, Buccaneers probably, if he keeps playing like that, the division is going to be theirs 100%. Um, but yeah, I think as far as like a MVP for the day today, it's got to be Baker.
I agree.
Can't really say Allen because he
He's
just does
expected.
those things. He's expected to do those things. But yeah, Baker Mayfield.
I
How
gotta
about
go.
you?
I gotta go with. There's two of them, but the one is less obvious. And well, not true. If you look at his stat sheet, it's obvious. But I gotta go
Hmm.
with J.K. Dobbins. I
Yeah,
mean, he just looked the part, and
yeah,
the Chargers are just gonna. Well, we'll see. I think they're gonna use him more. It's gonna be probably 60-40 split, but if he can show what he can do, which when he's healthy, he does.
right.
Two years ago, 3 years ago, when he was a rookie, and then after that, I was excited for him.
Yeah.
And we'll see. My other one though would have to be Richardson. I mean,
Mm,
not great for football, but fantasy, it's gonna be exciting.
yeah,
As
yeah. It
far
was a
as
very,
sorry, go ahead.
I'll say very, very high highs and very low lows today. You had a
Yeah.
lot of people that played really well, and you had a lot of people that played pretty bad.
Yes. No, it
So we'll
was
see if it
it.
changes.
I'd have to look up the actual stats on average score and compare that to last year, but I think it was a low scoring week in general.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, as far as tonight, this is all we got. We'll be talking about the Lions and the Rams tomorrow night, along
Hmm.
with waiver pickups for the week. Looking ahead to potentially Thursday night's game. Uh, so yeah, I would say make sure, not even make sure, but if you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to ask us any fantasy questions, make sure that you comment on our videos. Literally anything, start, sit, trades, anything you can think of for advice. Our email's
Hmm.
on the screen. Send us an email. I don't even know if it's tweet anymore, but you can send us something on X. We'll be posting videos on TikTok, Twitch, Instagram. Comment on anything with questions, um, and we will either respond to you or talk about it in our next video. So, otherwise,
Yes, sir.
Ron, you enjoy your night. Try to finish the rest of the Lions game, and we'll talk. We'll talk again tomorrow.
All right, man. Have a good night.
You too.